English language teaching. Under the covers.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of English Language Teachers React. Really hope you enjoyed the last episode. Loved all the comments that you left, and we're going to have a look at some more clips today, and we'll react and let you know what we would do the same, do differently, etc. The first clip, so you know, is a very famous teaching movie called Stand and Deliver. It's not English teaching. There is a component where he does teach English, but it's about this Spanish, Mexican, immigrant American guy that's a teacher. He teaches us maths, but I feel like there's some scenes that we can look at, and he does teach English as a second language at one moment, but I think you'll really enjoy these clips. So let's take a look.
Who's calling the shots, ese?
You got a slip? You got a slip? Okay, you'll have to stand in the back until I can get another desk. You sit right here.
Included this clip because I wanted to talk a little bit more about kind of like classroom management, because this is the kid at the school that everyone knows. He just misbehaves in class. He's not a good student.
Right.
And I thought the way that he dealt with him was really good.
I think he's a bit too on his case. I mean, I don't think I would be quite that aggressive, even with a really difficult student. But maybe I've never had a gang member of a student, to my knowledge, right? So I'm not sure about that. But yeah, because he really gets in his face. The thing at the start, he comes in with the other fella, got a slip, and he separates them straight away. Puts them at separate areas. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Gotta come to this class prepared.
Do the work in my head.
You know the times tables?
I know the ones, twos, threes.
Finger man.
Yeah, he gave him the finger.
Yeah, and that's when he's saying something like he knows his times table.
Yeah.
Ones, twos, right, and then he gives him the finger. But it's not like any of the, he didn't do it in a way that, like, you know, right in front of the whole class, gives him the finger and everyone's watching, because the class seemed to be all doing something, like they were doing an exam or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's actually just an interaction, because that would be a different situation, right? Like if a kid did something like that and everyone's watching, then I feel like the need to bring the hammer down would be a lot harder. Mm-hmm. Whereas when it's just an interaction between the teacher and the student, so if a teacher gives let me try and put myself in that situation a minute.
I mean, for me, even if it's that, just, you know, maybe no other students saw it and he's just doing it, I just see that as a test. That's just something, if you let that slide, something else is going to come after that's going to be even worse. So I think, it
depends, doesn't it? It depends what effect it has on you, you know. I mean, yeah. I think I would, you know, I might even laugh if someone did that, you know what I mean? Because I'd find it kind of comical. Maybe because I don't know this kid and I don't know anything about his personality yet. Mm-hmm. So if I start to learn that he's actually a real bounder, then, you know, it might become different. But to start with, I might just kind of think, you know, the first thing a kid would do would be something like that. You know, I'd be kind of like, that's weird. What's going on with this kid? You know what I mean? Like, I definitely want to talk to him. but I wouldn't necessarily be like dragging him out by his ear. "Yeah, what are you doing?" You know.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'd be like, "There's something weird. There's something definitely going on here." So yeah.
I heard about you. Are you the finger man? I'm the finger man too. You know what I can do? I know how to multiply by 9. 9 times 3. 1, 2, 3. What do you got? 27. 6 times 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do you got? 54. Yeah. You want a hard one? How about 8 times 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What do you got? 72.
I liked the throwback of him, because he's like calling him the finger man, because he gives the teacher the finger, but then he kind of turns it on him, and he's like, well, I can do stuff with my fingers as well, and he drops knowledge. So he kind of, I like how he twisted it and used it like against the student to kind of reaffirm his authority, but he did it in a way that he's teaching and demonstrating his knowledge. But I like this whole reasserting authority, but I don't think he came down, to be honest, that much with a hammer. I think he was just kind of wanted to show that he kind of has the guy's number, but also the way that he showed it, he's like, well, you can't fluster me. I'm showing you, you know, my version of the fingers. I'm demonstrating my knowledge, my authority, and why you should kind of respect me. And I just think
That's a good point.
thought it was really handled really well, because I know some teachers that if a student did that, they would, you know, bring down that hammer and they would fly off the handle. And
Right.
I think there was a subtlety to what he did.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's definitely on that side of the approach is definitely the right way to go. Yeah. I mean, that would be going back to what I said before about him not necessarily making a scene in front of the other students. It'd be so much worse, wouldn't it, if you then make a scene, you know, you're like, what do you think you're doing? You know, just saying that. And then everyone's looking then, you know, and then it's, that would be a complete catastrophe, I think, in that circumstance.
Yeah, it's with that sort of dealing with those sort of students, it's a very fine balance, because the way I kind of see it is if a teacher's giving a student attention, they're getting rewarded, because attention is a reward. So as soon as they're being bad and you're paying attention to that student, then, you know, all those other students in the class don't get your focus. They do. So it's kind of a hard balance of addressing bad behavior like that, but also it just not taking over everything, which can often happen, especially if you've got like younger kids.
Yeah. Again,
Okay.
you know, thinking about it, I'm not sure if I've ever really had like a nasty student. You know, I've had plenty of disruptive students, but to have someone who, you know, as far as they really just would not give a damn at all, I don't know. That would be an interesting one, you know, because presumably with a kid like him, like, you know, it's not going to matter about his parents or anything like that. That's none of that stuff's going to come into play. It's a different kind of game. Be interesting to know what happens in the rest of the film, really. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, stuff with that, I like. I just really like that idea that he's taking what that guy is trying to do, the math, and then flipping it back on him. I mean, for me, it'd be like if a student was to say, you know, like, F you, fuck you. And you know, one way to flip that back on them would be like, fork, what do you say, fork you? What, you know, like, kind of tease them about their pronunciation. Like, no, not fork you, you know, fuck you. You know, kind of, so you're taking back that lead, you're taking back that sort of power. You're like, no, you're not the person that's in control of this class. I am. Because a lot of the classroom dynamics, especially if you're dealing with students that aren't so great, and maybe you're lumbered with materials that aren't that engaging, and you're not able to prepare as you would, because a lot of classroom management is done before you even enter the classroom, then that is something that you can do to kind of be the boss of the classroom, because you have to be the boss. Not so much with adult students, but with kids. Yeah.
It's a pen.
It's a pen.
It's a pencil.
It's a pencil.
It's a chair.
It's a chair.
It's a light.
It's a light.
It's a window.
It's a window.
It's in the room, on the table. It's 10 o'clock.
It's in the room, on the table.
Un momento, por favor.
One moment, please.
Just a little bit of context there. He is actually not feeling very well during that class.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, that was him teaching English.
Okay. Okay. All right.
This is what all my adult classes look like.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken me 12 years to realize, to get to this level that this guy's at now. It is the pinnacle of teaching technology. Just say stuff and then the students say it.
I mean, for that,
So
what would be the point of going to a class like that when you can just go and buy Pilsner and other audio, courses where you can just learn and repeat and drill?
I'm not really entirely certain what's going on there. I mean, to be super charitable, we could say, it's a pronunciation drill. He's leading choral drills of new word chunks that, they might do something with afterwards. And in that sense, you could potentially put that in a class somewhere, but there's a couple of problems. I think, first of all, his pronunciation's totally off. And I don't mean the sounds. I don't mean him saying pencil. That's fine. It's more the idea that he says it's a pencil instead of it's a pencil. That kind of word stress problem.
It's like combining the words.
Yeah, no, he's not doing the connected speech and he's not speaking naturally. So that's likely to be a problem. But, elements of that could definitely be, they could be part of a larger activity, as long as the class is not 90 minutes of, the pencil is on the table. The pencil is on the table, but it could just be maybe 30 seconds, introducing a couple of language chunks. And then it's like, okay, so, the instruction could be, don't write anything down. We're just going to do these, just repeat after me. And you say like 5 or 6 different things. Then you say, right, with a partner, what can you remember? And so they're practicing pronunciation. They're practicing these new forms that maybe they've done a bit of work on. And then after they do that, maybe they go off and, I don't know, do something else with that vocabulary. Maybe then they actually get the pencil and they put it here, and then their partner has to say the pencil's on the table. Oh, good. Okay, now I'll put it in my pocket. And they're doing that together or whatever. I don't know. I think I'm being very charitable here. I think that's probably not what's going on here, is it at all?
No, I don't think so. But I think your suggestions would be something that would hugely improve that activity and the learning for those students, and help them enjoy life a little bit more.
I mean, the other things, I guess, to mention there, we've got the rows, haven't we? And I don't really think there's any place of rows in language teaching now, is there? Like rows of chairs like that. Is that, what did you have with the kids in China? Were they in rows? Were they really? Okay.
Yeah.
So here's a place for that in language teaching then, I guess.
No,
so
there isn't. There isn't.
Okay.
But it's public school, so
But when they do pair work, what do? You just say turn to the the person who sat there?
Well, the thing with pair work is, I mean, I didn't do that much pair work just because of the amount of students that I had, me not being generally assisted in class at all, and them having literally no English, and coming from a culture where they didn't generally do pair work as well, it was an overwhelming task. I was able to get away with it on a couple of times, but to build that needs a whole separate set of learning. You know, like that would be a practice in and of itself, even removed from learning English. It would be weeks of demonstrating, okay, we've got here, I'll bring in 2 students to the front and get them to repeat the dialogue, and then getting them to sit down and repeat that, and then, you know, getting them to do that one by one with the rows, because you literally got to teach them how to do pair work.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I got a sense of that in Japan. The class that I had actually was an advanced class. So in my own class, I didn't experience it, but I saw it from the other classes, what was going on. And it was very much that, you know, part of the learning English, it was almost like as they went through the levels of their English, they were all also going through the levels of learning how to participate in like a Western classroom, basically. So yeah, I can totally understand that.
And to do that and also be in control of the class, it's challenging. I was able to do it with certain classes that were very good, but there's some classes you like, they're a lot younger in their mindset, or you know, not as well behaved as other classes. So you just had to be careful on which class to do it with. Well, I would love to have done loads more with that. It was just a shame. But I think they're moving in the good general direction. There was lots of in the textbooks for the public school, there were pair work exercises towards the later parts of the books, and they were doing you know, like surveys and stuff like that get them to move around. It's just, you know, it's easier to do with, you know, older kids and adults because they don't get distracted. They don't, you know, want to just go and talk to their friend at the other side of class and play what have you. So with the younger ones, you kind of have to have a little bit more control over the class, and you have to do that because otherwise it's not safe. And you know, safety's first. You've got to. I mean, that's why I kind of harp on about being in control of classes, because if you're not in control, then, you know, it's not a safe class.
Well, with 60 students, yeah. And I guess in these classrooms, there's no room for them to go anywhere either. It's not like you can stand them all up and get them. Because, I mean, it's totally different to how the primary classes I taught, like, because, you know, I'd have, we had up to 18 students. And we'd normally have maybe between 6 and 18. But even with 18, it's very manageable. You know, and we always had them in islands. This was at the British Council Vietnam. So they'd have island here, island there, island there, island there. So you'd have 2 4s and 2 5s would be your setup of the groups, right? And there'd be a lot of like bringing them all to the front, and they all sit down in a little semicircle kind of thing, and you're giving the instructions, blah, 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 or whatever, and check that they know what's going on, and then sending them back to their groups, you know, and there was a lot of that. And I can't imagine doing a primary class kind of without that, because all of that movement and everything, and the groups and everything, it really helps to kind of break it up, and, you know, and they get into this routine of, you know, start the class, you know, right after register, it's everyone down to the front, and we do circle time, you know, which is just like a bit of, it's basically just chatting with the teacher. It's, you know, like, you know, what did you do this? Did anyone do anything interesting this weekend? You know, that kind of silly stuff, you know. So yeah, it'd be a totally different thing, like getting up in front of a room of like just 60 kids just sat down at their desks looking up,
Well,
and not having that option
moves
of,
from being a classroom, seminar, workshop kind of scenario that you've just presented to being basically a lecture.
right, because
and,
you've spoken
the
about the
whole
PowerPoints
setup
and
of
stuff.
the chairs is as for a lecture. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to work with what you've got.
Yeah.
But you
I
can
think,
still
yeah,
do stuff. I mean,
that is the
I'm very
circumstance.
into you transition. So, and, I use songs as transitions to move through my class. We have an activity, then we'll go to a song where they get up, they move around, do actions, another activity, song. So it's not just them sitting on the chairs. You do need that aspect of movement, and because I think the movement breaks up the class and it re-injects energy after doing, after they have to be sat down because of the whole setup of the classroom.
This is basic math, but basic math is too easy for you burros. So I'm gonna teach you algebra because I'm the champ. And if the only thing you know how to do is add and subtract, you'll only be prepared to do one thing, pump gas.
Hey, ripping off a gas station is better than working in what, you know?
Orale. Orale. I'm a tough guy. Tough guys don't do math. Tough guys deep fried chicken for a living. Pues orale. You want a wing or a leg, man?
I'm not entirely convinced by his approach with the finger kid, although this might be the fact that I am not familiar with the gangster Latino community or whatever, right? But yeah, it seems to me like he's losing him, or like he never had him in the first place. Like, because that kid's looking really pissed off at the back of the class, right? And he kind of takes the piss out of him for something. Nothing really. I don't think he does anything. He just throws a bomb his way, right? And he just looks more pissed off. And I'm just kind of thinking,
But
at what
the
point
kid
does
says,
he win this kid over?
Well, isn't it better to just rip off the gas station than to work there? Because that was his comeback.
Oh, is that right? Was that
Yeah.
him who said that though?
Yeah,
I'm not sure it was.
he
was
said
it?
that, and he's like, okay, no.
And he goes, okay, no, and then he does that fist bump.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I didn't twig that was him that said that.
Yeah.
I
He's
thought
just
that
being
was someone a bit
cocky
further
as
up the
usual.
class. Okay. All right, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, if he is, then I guess he's inviting, some, like you say, something needs to be reestablished, doesn't it? The classroom control needs to be reestablished.
Yeah, I think he does a good job of doing that without going overboard. He's not getting them to stand up and go look at the wall in the corner, or
Right, because he doesn't want to derail the class too much either.
Yeah.
So he just wants to deal with it quickly, not like going through all kinds of crazy motions.
And,
That's the thing as
humor
well.
is one of the easiest ways to do it.
And if you get a kid who's really, who's really belligerent, then you're kind of inviting trouble when you start to say to him stuff like, what did you just say? Right, stand up. And then he's like, no, right? And then you get into a new battle with him about, in front of the whole class, you're getting into a battle with this kid about whether he's going to stand up or not. And because he might not choose to go along with your punishment, and then, what do you do then? You have to take it up to the next level. And before you know it, you spent 10 minutes messing around with him just because he made an obnoxious comment. I think you're right. Reflection, I think that was, he did deal with it well. It was only because I missed that it was him that also did that. Yeah.
Ever been to the beach? Yeah. You ever play with the sand? Finger man. Come on, finger man. You ever dig a hole? The sand that comes out of the hole, that's a positive. The hole is a negative.
And then the thing with the hole, that was interesting as well. I think we just have to be charitable about what he's actually teaching.
Come on, a -2 + 2 equals. Anybody can do it. Fill the hole. -2 + 2 equals. Come on, just fill the hole. can do it. You're gonna let these burros laugh at you? -2 + 2 =. I'll break your neck like a toothpick.
Because for me, yeah, what he's saying didn't make a lot of sense. I know, yeah, okay, -2 + 2 = 0, right? But, just kind of saying over and over again to someone, -2 + 2, -2 + 2.
Orale. 0. 0? You're right. Simple. That's it. -2 + 2 = 0. He just filled the hole.
No, it's like, I don't know if that's the best way to get like the
Yeah,
the
he
idea
really
out of
put
someone.
him on the spot, and there was a lot of peer pressure. Maybe that was kind of his way to try and crack that egg, to crack that cool demeanor.
Well, in a way, but then he also acts like he's on his side because he says you're going to let these burros, think that you don't know the answer or something like that,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like he's championing him along. So I don't know then. I mean, maybe it's a more complex game than that for him, but I don't know if he's deliberately putting the pressure on him, or then when he does put the pressure on him, he's saying, look, I'm your buddy. I want you to succeed. Come on, say the right answer. Yeah, I don't know. I know that...
I mean, that's one of the major causes, in my experience, of belligerent students, or, those kind of students, is that it's not actually that they want to be belligerent, it's just that they don't know, they don't have the confidence or the esteem there. You know how it is with a lot of the education, especially the business side. The kids are just moved from the next grade to the next grade, even if they've not passed it and they've not got a good foundation. So that some of the stuff that you might be teaching in the class might be just going way over their head. So the only way that they can kind of participate in the class is by being belligerent. But so if you're able to kind of like get it so that you raise them up to the class standard, or do some tutoring on the side so their English is not as bad as they think it is, and you can take it up the next level, then often the problem of them being belligerent goes away, because they can participate as a normal student.
Yeah, I think it can be an element of it, that they're struggling to keep up and follow. But this goes back to what I was saying a couple of weeks ago about how I think that there's several aspects of it. And one of the aspects, is their pre-existing linguistic knowledge. So how much have they learned linguistically? But then there's a couple of other things that you'd have to consider as well, like their interests. It can just be that they really have no interest in the current themes that you're using in the classroom, right? We're doing in the environment again. Who cares? I'm into video games. Forget the environment. So there's that element. There's the capacity, not of necessarily of linguistic knowledge, but of other knowledge. So maybe they are interested in it, but the task that you're doing or the class that you've designed is too complex for them in other ways, not necessarily because they don't know the language, but because if they're 9-year-olds and you're asking them to do something which really only teenagers should be able to do, like some kind of categorization or design of something that they don't have the knowledge of, then that's not going to work. And yeah, in any of those circumstances, if those matrices aren't being hit in the right place, then it will either be too easy and too boring, or too complex and too difficult. And in that situation, a disruptive student is likely to be disruptive because, what's going on? I don't understand this. And if they do understand it, it's boring, right? So you have to get everything right.
I totally agree. And I think it all kind of comes to, before you're stepping in the classroom, going through your rationale, going through your plan, and making sure that you hit all, like you say, all those matrices, and taking as much as you can into account, because once you've done that, then the class is not going to be a problem, because why would there be, unless there's randomly that one damn wasp that somehow gets into the classroom that freaks everyone out. That's it, you know, it's going to be a good class.
Did you know that neither the Greeks nor the Romans were capable of using the concept of zero? It was your ancestors, the Mayas, who first contemplated the zero, the absence of value. True story. You burros have math in your blood.
You might be able to talk about the kind of cultural context of his approach to this classroom. Obviously, he is very much, he's using a lot of his knowledge of the community, the Latino community or whatever, right? And he's kind of demonstrating that he knows what they're all about because he's from that community, right? So I think there's a lot to be said there. You know, the fact that he keeps calling them burros and things like that, right? He's kind of saying, look, you know, whatever, don't think you can play the games you play with other teachers with me because I know what you're all about.
And the same at the end when he's talking about their history and how it came, you know, the zero came from, you know, like the Mayan, I can't remember what it was. But I
he says Mayan, doesn't he? Yeah.
I think one aspect of English language teaching is also kind of immersing yourself in the culture of the place, the country where you're at, and kind of getting a good understanding, because it can really help and inform your classes and how to approach them, especially with creating materials as well. You know, like for example, with little kids, I always try to find out what the kids or my younger students like, because then I can start incorporating that into my class. So, you know, when I'm giving them examples of someone that's strong, I'm going to talk about Goku. I'm not going to talk about Superman, because they don't know who Superman is, but they know who Goku is. You know, that background is good to have.
Yeah, so it's using your student's profile for personalization of the things that come up in the class. And that's what he's doing, right? So he's personalizing this teaching about zero to them by mentioning the Mayans, the kind of the Native American ancestors in Mexico or whatever, right? So yeah, and like you said, personalization always it's always a very powerful tool because it makes so much more sense for someone, and it's so much easier for someone to remember something that has some aspect that they can relate to. Like you say, a kid doesn't know who Superman is, or they might have some vague idea, but whatever, some old superhero from back in the day. But then if you show, someone that they actually care about, and you say, this guy is new piece of vocabulary, then they go, oh, that's what strong means. It means like my favorite character, he's strong, right? Completely. It's a very powerful tool. So
and it allows them to talk about the things that they want to talk about.
Yeah, there's that part of it, and it's also just the fact that it's so much easier to remember. The whole idea of personalization, you know, when we get to adult learners, a part of autonomous learner training is getting adults to themselves personalize their vocabulary when they're noting it down. So they're not just noting it down with some random example or some random word family links or picture or whatever, but they're doing it with something that either they've created or that links to their life in some way. So, you know, if you were in Valencia, Spain, and you're teaching the word delicious, then what do you say? Well, you say paella, right? Paella is the most delicious food. And then they go, oh, paella, right? You know, because paella is from Valencia and paella is delicious, and there you go. So yeah, and it's a very powerful memory aid. In fact, I'm big into personalization. I spend a lot of time kind of getting it into the heads of my adult students right now that it's this powerful tool that makes learning anything easier, but especially languages.
Definitely. And you can also use it to connect more emotionally, to kind of poke students to pay attention as well. Like, oh, using your Spain example, or you want to talk about something that's yucky, you're like, oh yeah, paella is yucky, and then wait for their reaction and be like, no, because then that emotion comes up and be like, no, it's delicious, and they want to use that word, but they don't know that word. And you're like, what? No, it's not yucky, it's the not yucky. Oh, delicious, and then they say, no, it's delicious, but they've got that added emotion in there, the added connector, because they're kind of a little bit offended by the teacher who's just teasing them, really. But it adds that extra layer in there, and it's a good way to kind of approach it, I feel. Just mix it up.